And with this, I believe Eric Pearson is going to join and just walk through some of the high-level infrastructure improvements.
Hello, and so I guess we can go ahead and next slide there. And so we're going to have high level, we're going to have road, as Bonnie had stated, access off of Bradburn. We will have emergency access out to 84th, but not public access. With that, we will have sanitary water and storm infrastructure for this whole development. Storm detention pond located up the north side, and we'll be releasing also out to the north following historic drainage patterns. We will have a swale on the north side of the site protecting the existing apartments, and a swale on the west side protecting the existing residents' homes. So drainage will be maintained on site and treated with the detention pond. And I think that's about it for the infrastructure that we have.
Eric, if we could go the next two slides, could you just walk through the street sections that we have?
Yep. So Bradburn is going to be typical collector roadway, and with the city. So we will have an additional 11-foot tree lawn on the north side and an 8-foot walk for the trail connections. And then next slide. And Lowell, we're looking at building the west half, as you see the section there, and with attached walk. And the 84th, we're going to be building on the south side of that section to mimic the existing condition of the sidewalks and what's in place there.
Great. Could you go to the next slide, Dave, please? And then Morris Barbera with KB Home is going to join and just talk through a little bit about KB and the architecture.
Thanks, Bonnie. Yes, my name is Morris Barbera. I'm VP of Land Development at KB Home. So just introducing us a little bit, we're one of the larger, more recognizable national builders in the United States. We've been around building for around 60 years. We work in 8 states at the moment. We have 19 different divisions in those 8 states. In Colorado this year, we're probably going to build just north of 800 homes. Nationwide, we'll probably build just a few more than 11,000 homes, is what we're expecting. Since the Energy Star program has come on board, we have built over 150,000 Energy Star certified homes. We have won 10 Energy Star Sustained Excellence Awards. That is more than any other national builder. And we have been awarded the EPA's Water Sense Sustained Excellence Award for the last 5 years. We're the only national builder to have been awarded that award by the EPA. And now we're getting ready to move into their version 2 as the EPA gets ready to launch that program. So we're looking forward to that as well. Next slide, please. But I think most importantly for us, what we're most proud of at the moment is that we have been the #1 customer ranked national home builder by both Trust Builder and Consumer Affairs. These are customer service awards. We put a lot of emphasis on our buyers and on satisfying our customers. So we're really thrilled at having been awarded these awards recently. Next slide, please. And one more, just to go through the architecture quickly. So what we're planning on building in this community is our paired product. The paired product has become extremely popular. We probably build about 55% of the homes that we build at the moment is this paired product. Affordability or relative affordability is obviously a very major benefit of this, but I think more importantly is the interesting and varied facade and external appearance that we get from this product. As you can see, the driveways and the garages are tucked at the back of the house in an alley, a private alley, and the front of the house looks like a big wide house and the two units that are next to each other, the way they articulate makes every building very different to the one next to it. Next slide, please. Obviously the interior is very modern and clean, up to current standards. And next slide, please. The product type we will offer 5 different floor plans over here, and the way that those 5 floor plans get combined can lead to 14 different potential buildings. And then there are 3 potential elevations on that. So I'm not sure what the combination of that is, but there is a huge variety in the different types of buildings, as you saw on the 2 slides previously. And that is what makes the whole community very interesting and very aesthetically pleasing. All of the garages are pre-wired for electric vehicles. As I mentioned previously, all of them are Energy Star homes. All of them are WaterSense homes. And the base size ranges from about 1,470 square feet for the smallest unit to about 1,960, 1,970 square feet for the larger unit. Next slide, please. And Bonnie, that's all from me for now.
Thank you, Morris. Dave, could you go to the next slide? Lastly, just want to touch a little bit on some of the amenities that are provided within this community. So between the homes, the pocket parks are imagined as an extension of each home's front porch, a place to relax and enjoy the view while you catch up with your neighbors. Some of these amenities include water conserving xeriscape plant material, pollinator-friendly plant palette, a tot lot playground with open lawn and shade structures. We'll have terrace amenity spaces with seat walls for passive gathering areas, a bocce court and outdoor lawn area, and then bike amenities, including a bike repair station and interconnected trail network. You go to the next slide. And then here you can see just a little bit more information on that trail network. So the blue dashes here are existing sidewalks, and then the orangish red dashes are proposed walks. So additional connectivity along Bradburn, and then connections up through the community up to 84th over to Lowell, just providing a little bit more walkability for the neighborhood. And I believe that is our full presentation.
There's Patrick. Yes, Patrick, we are all finished and happy to transition to Q&A if you all are ready for that.
Thanks, Marcus. I think we are ready for that. Dave, is there another slide? One more slide. I thought there was a slide just to go through kind of how you write, okay, this is the just contact information for me. This will also be on the YouTube program that will be available, and we'll put this slide back up at the end of the program for people to copy down or if they want to see it again. And I'll remind folks that questions should be posted in the chat box on the right side of the screen. And I believe John McConnell, principal planner with the city, will be reading those comments, and different folks here who've been identified will respond to those as appropriate. With the city, we have a handful of people, and I'm going to run through them really quickly. If there's drainage questions, Nathan Inc., who's one of the city engineers, will be able to reply to that. If there's parks and recreation questions, Nicole Ankeny will reply to those regarding the public amenities for parks. And Sean McCartney, who's our designer, will reply if there are questions on the building designs, etc. And so with that, John, do you want to start the questions?
Yes, thank you, Patrick. First question is from JP. There are 4 schools and 1 private school in walking distance from the Westminster farm. It is already scary and dangerous for the children walking home with uncontrolled traffic and congestion. Adding upwards of 6,000 people to these roads will only make it more dangerous. Okay, I apologize. That was more of a comment. Next is a question from JP. Why is Oria Capital requesting an exception to the city mill levy cap and have argued in the public record for a doubling of the city MSD mill levy cap? That's a question for the applicant.
Great. I may just jump right in if that's okay, Patrick. I think
That's great. Thank you, Marcus.
Maybe able to answer that question.
Sorry, Marcus, were you pointing to me?
Yes,
Chad?
that would be great. Yes, please.
Perfect. Metro District question. This is not an application for Metro District. The city has a very clear policy, as we've gone over before, that requires an approved ODP before a Metro District Service Plan application can be made. That is not at issue today or anywhere in the near future. I think that answer that one.
All right, next question. And everybody, please bear with me. My connection seems to be running a little slow here, so the scrolling is kind of slow. Next question is, why is that the information about this meeting been such a problem? Would anybody like to take a stab at that one?
I can. This is Patrick Caldwell with the city, and I'll just reiterate what we've provided. The applicant did provide mailed notice to property owners within 500 feet of the proposed development site, and the city followed up with that. We had a list of folks that had contacted us in through email or phone over the last few years regarding this project, and we sent those individuals an email saying this meeting was to be held tonight and invited them, and we copied the information for the virtual meeting and included the map, and I believe we've only heard from a couple of people who had questions on the notice. So the city has tried our best to keep the neighborhood informed and the others that have been interested in the project informed of this meeting. So, Marcus, do you want to follow up with what you guys have done?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add, and Bonnie can maybe add, I mean, we certainly followed the requirements for this. We also provided additional social media notice of this meeting. So I think, Patrick, we tried to go beyond the 500 feet. I also will say we met with the Observatory Heights neighborhood, in the last few months specifically, and said that we'd be coming back with this meeting. So we've certainly tried to expand that. If anybody does have any questions, I was listed as a contact. I only received one email. So Patrick, I think I know we followed all the restrictions and requirements, but we're happy to, as you will go through, can be shared with people. The live recording of this can be shared with people, and we're happy to answer any follow-up questions if they're not able to participate this evening.
All right,
John,
so
next question. Thanks.
Next question. I think it elaborates a little bit on that last question by citing some examples. Example 1 would be wrong start time on the first email sent. Number 2, the map provided in the email by the city wasn't oriented correctly. The city's website front page events had bad links to portions of tonight's meeting, YouTube link, and link to the e-track that was only corrected this morning at 11 a.m. with good links. Any other comments from staff or the applicant on that issue?
No comments from our side.
All right. Next question from JP is who is answering my questions. Generally, everybody that you see here, Patrick, Marcus, Bonnie, and the applicant team, as well as certain city staff, including myself and our planning aide, Jennifer Baden. And
can I interject at this point? This is Rita McConnell. I just want to follow up because I have had conversations with John Palmer about some link issues he was having this morning. Those were expeditiously fixed, and I did also express that I used 2 different computers and 3 browsers, and I did not have issues with the links, but I understand another city staff member did, as well as John. So we did fix that pretty quickly. I think it was fixed within an hour of being brought to our attention. So we did apologize for that. It was fixed, and that was the only contact we had from any citizens about any connectivity issues.
thank you, Rita. Next is in reviewing the Uplands website and Facebook page, there's no mention of this public meeting.
Yeah, I think we've tried to be very careful about that. I did mention that we kind of had notified folks, and I'll be happy to share kind of how we did that. I think one thing we want to be very careful about is when it is a city required meeting and we go through that process. So we followed that again. And I'm sorry, I know I checked all the links this morning. They worked great for us. We kind of went through that process. We checked our links on our mailer a number of times. So we know they were good. But John, again, we're happy to follow up on it. I think we've had really good coverage of this, and we're frankly glad to see such a nice crowd to talk about this project.
All right, thank you, Marcus. Next is for the city, question for the city that is. The city has a well-established code for public land dedication in new developments, 1168, which clearly states public land dedication of 12 acres per 1,000 residents. It is only by exception of when the public interest is not served that a cash in lieu is acceptable. This exception cannot be made here. Pardon me, this. I apologize again, my scroller is working really slowly. So I guess this is more of a statement and not a question. I don't really see a question here. It's a statement about the public land dedication and that exceptions cannot be made here. Patrick, would you like to maybe address how the city processes and agrees to public land dedication in a little more detail? Maybe that would help this comment.
Yeah, there's a section of the code that outlines the requirements for public land dedication, and when a new project comes in, the city reviews that, and depending on the kind of development, such as whether it's single family detached or multifamily or paired homes, which is proposed here. There's a standard requirement for public land dedication for each type of home, and we do the math. And when it says, get a product, and that's the public land dedication that's required for acreage. And occasionally there's the state doesn't have, I'll say, quality public land. So we might negotiate and require or ask for cash in lieu of the land. And there's for this site, it's steep, and typically the city looks for land that is what I'll say more amenable for public parks, ball fields and playgrounds, etc. And in this case, we did accept some, or are looking to accept, public land on parcel B-1, not so much because we will have active recreation there, but because it helps with the view corridor on parcel B2, which is on the south side of Bradburn in this general area. So it's not always 100% that we take full land. We have dozens of examples around the city where we've taken cash in lieu of the land. And that's a general, interpretation of our code. Specific questions, if we can certainly reply to those. So.
All right, thanks, Patrick. At this time, I'm going to transfer these duties for reading the questions over to Senior Planner Dave Gurman, who will take it from here.
Thanks, John, and good evening, everyone. Could I just get a thumbs up, Marcus and Patrick, if you can hear me okay? Thank you. All right, just kind of picking up where John left off. This is a comment from JP. JP comments that parcel B should only be considered as one parcel, not split into two lots.
I'm happy to jump in on that, Patrick. This is Marcus. I think one thing that we wanted to do, and I'll just address this has always been a separate parcels. You kind of look at it from across the board, the conversation. One thing that I think this has allowed us to do, and actually John Palmer has been a big part of that, the gentleman who asked the question, is, one thing we want to do, these are different phases, right, of the development. And this north section, as we're talking about tonight, is being proposed and developed by KB Homes. And so that is the time sensitive thing. We don't know when the south side is going to come through this process, right? We've had discussions about it, preliminary discussions, but we're not yet at this level. The other thing that I think this really allows us to do is, frankly, make great planning solutions for the neighbors to the north. This site really does nestle up against Shaw Heights, to really understand that, as Bonnie showed in our initial image, we had a roadway connecting to 84th. And our neighbors there said we didn't want to see that connection. And so because of this process and early on, we were actually able to get this feedback and make significant changes to our site plan to really be more responsive and reflective of what the neighbors have asked. So we certainly think these are separate parcels. That's how the planning process works anyway, taking it through the process. Bonnie, I don't know if there's anything to add to that other than you would always walk each of these parcels through as separate applications.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's likely a different builder, different product type that we would need to work through.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. Next question is also from JP. Parcel B is not anywhere close to being east of Lowell. Yeah, I believe that that was just a misstatement when Patrick was doing the map. It is west of Lowell. We apologize for that. The next question, I believe, was from Mr. Eric Wyckoff. He writes, City New Development Public Land Dedication Code. How could South Westminster be an exception in the case of Uplands? I'm not sure what that's a reference to. Patrick, would you have an answer for that?
No, I really don't have an answer for that. I'm not sure what the question means. I'll note that Bonnie did mention there are a couple of exceptions, a couple of units, have a couple of feet where they extend into a setback, and so we're looking at that. There's a couple of things that could be done to adjust those so that there are no exceptions, but we're reviewing those. The Planning Commission, City Council have not approved anything to date. So those are still options, but in general, the exceptions are pretty limited for this property. And it's not unusual that an official development plan would have an exception or two for lots of different reasons. Sometimes there's utility things or drainage that cause buildings and other structures to be pushed away from, developable area. So, and we do try to work with, landowners, residential and non-residential, commercial, industrial groups that may want to build and develop in the city to accommodate that. And if it's pretty minor, we will work with them. So, but in general, we don't do broad exceptions.
Thank you, Patrick. Marcus, do you have anything you wish to add, or should I continue?
That's great. I think we're fine. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Wyckoff, also, we would encourage you and all of our participants, if we're not quite capturing your question, maybe we just don't understand it clearly or something, please feel free to, repose a question where we might, if we understand it better, we might be able to jump in for you. A question from Mr. Dino Valente. What is the lot size of the new homes at 88th and Yates for comparison?
It's a great question, Dino. I can take that. I think that's the Skyline Greens paired homes. They're approximately 33 by 72 feet, which if I do quick math, that's around 2,375, 2,375 square feet. The average lot, and Bonnie, if you can check this for me, we're showing, Dino, is at 2,976. So those lots on Skyline Greens are a little smaller, actually about 500 or 600 square feet smaller than what we're proposing on this site.
Marcus, I'm just going to make a quick correction there regarding some of these final marketing names. The Skyline Greens is actually at 88th and Lowell, which is a paired home product, so it's more consistent. I believe the 88th and Yates one is single family detached. So I think a better comparison is a Skyline Green.
Great. So Dino, just saying that, so we're not arguing with your question at 88th and Yates. We use the Skyline Greens because they are paired homes as an example of a comparison.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. The next question from JP. Parcel B requires an annexation from Adams County. Not sure if that's a question or a comment, but do either of you have a comment to make on that?
I'm happy for Bonnie to address that if she would like, or Patrick.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. There is a small piece of land. I can double check what that acreage is, just west of Lowell, south of Bradburn. So not within this official development plan, but the future development to the south. There's a small piece of land that does need to be annexed into the city of Westminster, along with some adjacent public right-of-ways.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. The next question comes from Ian Khan. Does private open space, in quotes, mean that residents from surrounding neighborhoods will not have access to it?
No, that is not our intention. Where the word private is to separate it or distinguish it from public land dedication. So the public land dedication on the east side of the community are to be owned and maintained by the city of Westminster, whereas the open space within the community will be owned by an HOA or some other similar entity and be available for the public.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from JP, who is answering the questions. I believe we've introduced our staff members, but perhaps if I can negotiate our technology here, and if you can bear with me, I can actually put everyone's names on the screen, or at least most everyone, and that might help. But generally speaking, to answer your question, sir, we have a mix here of attending staff and also members of the applicant team who are attempting to field these questions. And here are the names of the applicant team members who are participating. And of course, we can also follow up with you with staff names again, if that would be helpful. The next question is, what are the proposed building heights? And that's also from JP.
Yes, John, the answer is the building heights are allowed to go up to 40 feet. We are only proposing around 35 feet. So again, this would allow for homes up to 40. We are proposing homes at 35 feet.
Okay, thank you. This may be a little bit of an extension of a previous question. This is coming in from Karen Ray. The city has a well-established code for public land dedication in new developments, section 1168 of the code, which clearly states public land dedication of 12 acres per 1,000 residents. It is only by exception of when the public interest is not served that cash in lieu is acceptable. That exception cannot be made here. How could South Westminster be an exception in the case of the Uplands? This area of the city is missing open space and parks. The farm has the last undeveloped parcels of land of size left in the city, and the community is demanding the city code be enforced and not be an incentive to the developer.
I'm going to ask Nicole Ankeny to reply to that. She is with Parks and Recreation and Library, and she has a larger perspective of the general neighborhood beyond the Uplands. And so I'm going to welcome Nicole.
Hi, thanks, Patrick. Yes, as Patrick mentioned, my name is Nicole Ankeny, and I'm a senior landscape architect. I am in the Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Department. And when private development projects come into the city, we have to look holistically about how the public land dedication, both physical and cash in lieu, would fit in with the existing plans. So we look at all of our master plan documents, such as the trails that are planned as part of the 2014 open space stewardship plans. And we also look at the park master planning work that has been done so that we can identify the areas that would work for future parks and open space. Patrick stated this earlier in the presentation. We've also got to look at the property available and what makes the most sense for park and open space development. On occasion, there are properties that are more suited for home development but don't have the assets that we would want to see for park development. So we do try to look across the board at all different, neighborhoods and the connectivity and so forth as we make these decisions and negotiate with developers as private development comes in.
Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate it. The next comment is from Pat Bird, who indicates that the slides can't be seen. I do apologize. We did have a few moments there. I'm not quite sure what happened, but due to a technological glitch, our PowerPoint presentation crashed. So we do apologize for that. We did try to get it up and back to where it was, where we were in the presentation as fast as we could. But just for everyone's edification, we will have the recording of this meeting available on our website, and you will be able to review it at your leisure. And of course, if anyone, again, we'll just say this again, if anyone does have somehow we missed a question, an unanswered question, please just get in touch with us. We're happy to field those for you. The next question that came in, are your current subcontractors a reflection of what we can expect from Uplands contractors? I am referring to Aztec Consultants and them trespassing onto private property. parking their work trucks the wrong way on the streets and disregarding the no parking signs. This comes from JP.
Great. I'll just say thanks, JP, for telling us that and sharing that information. We'll make sure that that is passed on. I imagine they were probably doing surveys or doing that, but John, I appreciate the comment, and I'll make sure that there is something that is noted with that contractor. Honestly, you're the best eyes that we have in the community. Although we all live close and kind of know it, we appreciate that feedback. So we'll get that on to ask that.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. The next question, how come Jeff refuses to attend the meeting? And that is from JP.
He is here. He is happy to attend. He always attends these meetings. He generally defers to all of us in answering the questions, but he is in attendance.
Okay, thank you. The next question is also from JP. Will this be an HOA?
Bonnie, you want to answer that, or does that go right to Morris?
No, I can answer that one. There will be an HOA for this property to assist with some of the on-site maintenance, things like that. It's not established yet, but that will be part of the development process, is establishing an HOA for this specific neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. The next question, also from JP. The city code for this area on height by code is 25 feet. How do you propose 40 feet? 40 foot.
So the 40 foot is part of the request for the preliminary development plan. So development of this parcel is subject to approval of that preliminary development plan. Patrick, perhaps you can help assist with the maximum height of 25 foot. I didn't think that was the case, but perhaps you can expand on that further.
Well, this is planned unit development, and there is some flexibility in planned unit development. When the code, and I don't have the code in front of me, and I'm not sure if he's looking at the existing or proposed zone district for this property, but the measurement of roof height is not always clear to many people. So it's 2 stories, 25 feet is probably, when we do the math, is what the calculation will be. If there's a gable roof, I'll use the rule of thumb. It's about half what that gable is, given the way the formula is for calculating roof height. And so it's not as straightforward as it seems. When it says 40 feet maximum, typically people envision a 4-story building, but more likely the kind of product that would be built is a 2-story product with a standard roof. And it would probably come in at the 25-foot measurement, the way we typically do our measurement per the building code.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Marcus or Bonnie, just signal me if you want to jump in on any of these too.
Great,
the next question also comes from JP. He's asking about parking for residents and guests.
Yeah, I can take and answer that one. So each individual home, so the 82 units and the 41 building, each home has a 2-car garage. Just over half of the homes also have a 2-car driveway, a full-length driveway behind them. And then additional parking spaces are provided through the north-south on-street parking on that proposed local road, and then additional surface parking spaces are proposed on the north and south ends of the community. So a variety of parking measures for both the residents and their guests.
Thank you, Bonnie. The next question, also from JP, what type of water will be used on park and common areas?
Maybe Bonnie or Eric, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I can. So we'll have to work through the detailed irrigation. I believe that's what they're meaning by water in this setting. So I would imagine the public land dedication would be separate, since that would be owned and maintained by the city, whereas the on-site private irrigation would be worked through with the landscape and irrigation documents to provide for those plantings.
Thank you, Bonnie. A comment from Dino Valente. He says, "See, I knew that a dark Sith Lord was hiding in the ranks of City Hall." Okay. Another question from JP. Will this change the floodplain for existing homeowners, and will I think that means, will they now have to purchase flood insurance?
Yeah, I'll be happy to jump in on that, and I'm going to hand it to Eric, who is with us tonight on our behalf of our engineering team. So Eric, if you can maybe address that, particularly as you think of that. I think John's question is about that northern part there of 84th. We think this is actually a substantial improvement for existing homeowners, but maybe if you could talk about those improvements.
Absolutely, and it is going to be a substantial improvement. We're putting a swale capturing the storm runoff on both the north and the west side of the site, capturing it in a detention basin. It'll be designed per the Mile High Flood District standards. We're going to try to do our best to over detain and release at slower than historic rates through that pond. So we will be releasing at lower rates than the existing, therefore the no downstream infrastructure should be accommodated by us.
Terrific, thank you.
And I'm going to ask Nathan Inc. to reply also. He's the city engineer for drainage, and I think Nathan was here earlier. I'm not sure if he's still here. There he is. Thanks.
I'm
Nathan.
still here. Yep. No, as Eric mentioned, there's going to be no impact to the floodplain in this area. So no homeowners will need to buy extra insurance or anything due to the development of this lot.
Okay. Thanks, Nathan.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, the next question, will this emergency access, believe he's referring to the one on 84th Avenue. Will this emergency access be like the one put in at St. Mark Village that does not work as an emergency access only? I'll go ahead and address that a little bit. We do recognize that access has not worked as expected. There are plans right now to mitigate that particular access at St. Mark Village by adding some additional features to control, non-emergency traffic in and out. And of course, we do apologize that did not work as initially intended. But that's the St. Mark Village portion of the question. Marcus, Patrick, Bonnie, would any of you like to address your portion?
Eric, do you want to walk through that? Maybe we could go to the overall land plan slide and just show where that access is located.
Yeah, so I can't speak specifically to the St. Mark's Village, what was done there, but I imagine the city making sure that this is barricaded enough such that only emergency vehicles would be passing through. We usually do that in the way of knockbox for fire and for police and for emergency conditions.
Is this a good slide for you, Bonnie?
Yeah, so just wanted to show where that access was. So it's on the far north portion of the community along 88th, along that eastern boundary, just at the end of that cul-de-sac. Just wanted to point out where that access was located.
Yeah, if it matters, whatever we're learning from the one at St. Mark's, we'll be happy to implement here. We appreciate, that's the kind of thing that we'll get feedback from the city, and we'll make sure that this is compliant and actually works for emergency access.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bear with me here. I'm now experiencing some difficulty with the questions, but I will be right back with you. Okay, we are back. Sorry about that. A comment made by JP, simply KB Cheap Homes. Okay. Mr. Eric Wyckoff has added this question. Uplands report states average household income in their development would be $102,000, but the 2020 U.S. Census Westminster median household income is $73,629, and Shaw Heights, which is an adjacent community, is $69,048. Upland report states average for sale housing value is $550,000. 220 U.S. Census median in Westminster is $307,600, and Shaw Heights is $245,800. This report projection, if true, will put further pressures on neighborhoods surrounding the Westminster farm. Whether the community is already feeling pressure of gentrification and the I think that's supposed to be where the community is already feeling pressure of gentrification and the unaffordable housing market. Perhaps Uplands developers would commit on why two different stories, one for area residents and one for business community and city filings.
I'm happy to take that one, team. Chad Ellington here with the Uplands team. There's some specific information in here, and I think to do this question justice, we would want some time to go back to our sources. So first of all, the report that they're referring to was done by EPS, Economic and Planning Systems. They're an area expert. They do work for all municipalities in the state, or most all, and do a very detailed analysis that frankly is beyond any developer's level of expertise. We count on them as the experts. The cities count on them as the experts on the subject of economic impacts that developments have. And so we will respond to this in writing and give EPS a chance to defend some of the data and the comparisons to the 2020 census. Just off the cuff, average resale prices are higher than the numbers that are mentioned in this question. So I think we would just want to do a little bit more homework with the current market in 2021 as it sits. Obviously, there's upward pressure on all pricing, top to bottom, in most markets here, and supply is the issue. And so we are absolutely willing to answer this question. We just want to do it in the right way, and respectfully would like to take the time to do it properly and get some input from EPS. So we will follow up with written comments, written response for this question.
The one thing I might add to that, Chad, and I might ask you just a follow up though, the premise of the question is, I think, a terrific question about us getting that information out and the way you're addressing it. But I think the mere fact that we are talking about paired homes here kind of goes to the point of why we're providing missing middle homes, right? Why we want to provide this missing middle. If these were just large single family lots, they would just by definition be that much more expensive, right? So I think it's really a lot of our attainable by design, how we're trying to provide that right type of variety of housing. So Chad or Bonnie, I think that's like the premise, but what we're trying to address is the very comment here, right? We want to meet this missing middle housing, and that's why we're providing for these paired homes in this environment.
Yep, well said. I agree. Attainable by design, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Chad and Marcus. Another comment from JP, Cheap Construction. A question from JP. Will you be building all green constructed homes? And all green is capitalized.
That's probably a specific question more on our energy rating or Energy Star. So Morris, maybe, or Bonnie, if you want to address that.
Sure. Yes, all homes will be Energy Star certified, and all the homes, so that's from an energy point of view, and all the homes will meet the Water Sense EPA requirements. So that's from a water point of view. And we don't pick and choose which ones, or they will all meet that, yes.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Bonnie, anything you want to add, or are we good? Okay. The next question is also from JP. How many of them, meaning paired homes, are you, parenthetically KB, currently building in Westminster?
This is Morris again. I can take that one again. We don't currently have anything in Westminster. The closest we have is a community currently active in Broomfield, with another one that's just been completed. We have two very similar communities up in Erie. We have another one that's just opened up in Longmont, and then slightly to the south at Central Park. We have a couple of communities out there of these paired type of communities.
Morris, one thing we might do just to help the gentleman who asked the question is maybe when we provide this back to the city, or we can provide links to some of those so they can be shared, right? If people want to go back, we'll be sure and put some links in there so people can look at that similar product in other cities.
Yes, I'm very happy to do that. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. The next question comes from Eric Wyckoff. Without invoking eminent domain on existing property owners, how will the increased traffic be absorbed on Lowell south of 82nd? Property lines are already practically on the street.
Eric, do you want to talk a little bit about our traffic improvements along Lowell?
And if you don't mind, if you could also go to the slide that maybe shows that cross section of Lowell.
Okay, I'm on your slide 26. Do you know which one that might be?
Keep going deeper into the presentation. You're there. It goes to infrastructure, I think.
Okay.
I believe it's slide 34.
Okay.
You're doing great. Two more. Keep going. Keep going. We were just keeping you interested, apparently. There we go.
Okay.
And then one more. This is Bradburn, and then we'll show actually Lowell, I think was the question. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we're going to be improving on with this build out. We're going to be improving the west side, the east side, and the rest of the development is going through the PDP with the master traffic report. That will illustrate the what's going on south of 82nd and further around. And also, I don't know if Heath is on, but citywide, that will be more improvements on that. But we are improving the roadway to the extent that it needs to be per the master traffic reports.
And if I can just clarify, Eric, that's actually done on our property. Is that correct? If you think of particularly south, I think the gentleman asked south of 82nd. If you think about that, that's really going to be, those improvements are made on Uplands property, if you will. So that's how we're able to do that.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. The next question is it's a request from Dino Valente. Please, for the love of all things holy, do not plant any lindenwood trees or cottonwood trees. Allergies are bad enough.
I think that's a pretty fair comment. We agree, Dino. As we always do with you, we agree.
Okay. All right. The next, I think this is a question. This is from JP. Metro tax districts, why Oriad Capital requested an exception to the city mill levy cap and have argued in the public record for a doubling of the city MSD mill levy cap?
Chad Ellington here. I think we answered that question earlier. This the Metro District is not an issue here. We're going to follow the city's process for a service plan application after the approval of ODPs.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ellington. The next question is from Jamie Chapa. As this will add more people to the area, are you proposing another traffic light?
Go ahead, Eric, if you want.
And with this development, that we are not proposing any traffic lights surrounding our development here.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Ian Khan. On the traffic concern, what will the city do to expand capacity on Lowell, Federal, 80th, 88th, and other surrounding thoroughfares?
And I'll go back to that again. It's going to be more per the PDP and master traffic report. All of the roadways surrounding will be matching the city right-of-way criteria for the collectors and arterials. And so that is how that's going to be addressed, traffic.
And Eric, I just might add, I know you all know this from the city very, very well, better than us, but just for the questioner, I think one of the things we just want to say is we provide the data, what we're submitting here in the ODP, the number of homes, the trips that'll generate, and then the city really tells us what needs to be addressed from a capacity, right? So Eric, that's something that we work very iteratively back and forth really to understand that. So it's an important part to really go through this ODP and show what that means, and then the city can really judge and tell us what that capacity is and what we need to do to make those improvements. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's correct. So there's a master traffic report in for the whole city, and then there's a master traffic report for the full development, and then there's a traffic compliance letter that would be with this subdivision that is in compliance with both.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. There's now a series of 3 comments from JP. Read the whole question. Let's not pick and choose. You have not answered my question about the problems. And then a question from JP. Why did we not have this meeting in person?
I'm happy to address. I don't know if this is a city required. I think the city is still utilizing this format. So Patrick, I didn't mean to jump in there, my friend, if I did. But I think that's what it is. We're still following the protocol, I think, that the city is using for these neighborhood meetings. We've actually found that it actually allows for more engagement, but whatever the city tells us to do, we will be happy to kind of do moving forward.
This is Rita McConnell. Marcus, let me add on to that. Yes, the virtual meeting format is being utilized for both Planning Commission and for neighborhood meetings. We are slowly introducing more public participation at City Council. And what I mean by public participation is the preference is for citizens to attend and with staff still being virtual. So as we explore and have success with that, we will be opening up Planning Commission and neighborhood meetings in the more, I guess, desired format for a lot of folks in person, and possibly also still having virtual.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. McConnell. The next question comes from Eric Wyckoff. He writes, history. The developer likes to pull out the 1882 Westminster University plat for housing. Why doesn't the developer pull out the history of the Pillar of Fire Church and their leaders in the 1920s, being in the KKK and holding cross burnings at the top of the hill?
I'll just note that I appreciate the comment from Mr. Wyckoff. I think we're certainly not trying to be selective. We were talking about the history from a planning perspective, but thank you for the comment. I think that is an incredibly sensitive thing that we should all note. So thanks for pointing that out.
Thank you, Marcus. The next comment comes from JP. He says, Marcus, please answer as to my question about Uplands website.
Yeah, thanks, John. Palmer, I did go look. Actually, I appreciate you following up on it. I do not see it listed on our, I think you just asked, I'm going to read it myself, about our website. I did not see it listed there. We followed, again, kind of the protocol of the meeting notices. We tried to expand the footprint, and actually the city was incredibly gracious in reaching out to everybody that has asked questions, had questions, as Patrick described. So again, I think we went well beyond the boundaries, but John, anybody else we can share this with, let us know. And I apologize that it's not listed more clearly on our website.
Thank you, Marcus. The next, next question comes from Don Voke. And Don, I apologize if I mispronounced your name, Voake. His question, when will KB Homes start building homes?
I can provide just a rough estimate of that. So we're working through this ODP process now. We expect this will take, through probably the end of this year, early next year to complete this process. The end of that could overlap with the next step in the city process, which is creating the final plat and civil construction documents, which I anticipate would take probably another 6 or so months. So I would think at the earliest that would probably be sometime spring or summer next year, assuming everything went along according to plan.
Thank you, Bonnie. The next question comes from JP. He is not specifying. I'm not sure if this is in reference to the cash in lieu, but he simply asks, how is the cash used? Cash all in capitals.
I think that, Patrick, was that you?
No, it's Chad. I was going to defer that to Nicole Ankeny if she's still on. From the applicant's answer side, I guess, Chad Ellington here, I would just say that it's used at the city's discretion as far as we understand. There's a balancing act that is done citywide, as we understand it, for the needs.
Here, if she could.
Priorities. Okay, great.
I don't see Nicole coming on, and I'm having some connection issues, and I've had the last half hour losing connection and coming back. But in general, the cash in lieu goes into the city's general fund, and and we keep track of that. And it, for the most part, goes back into Parks and Recreation's funds for park improvements, park construction, etc. So it doesn't really stay in the general fund and go to pave roads or to construct other things or to fix other items that the city takes care of. It generally goes back to the Parks and Recreation Department to improve parks. So.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. The next question comes from Jamie Chapa. I may have asked this already. Will there be another proposed traffic light due to more people living in the area? I believe Mr. Pearson indicated that no new traffic lights would be added. But Marcus, Mr. Pearson, Bonnie, anybody, do you have any more you want to add?
I want to add one thing. The city has requested and is working with CDOT for a new signal at 86th and Federal. We will get sort of one of the, it's known as a hawk light, and what it is, it's a crossing light. And we are hoping to get that in the next year. Separate from this development, the Department of Transportation, the State Department of Transportation, is doing some improvements to Federal. And one of the improvements is to add a new turn lane, left turn lane for southbound travelers on Federal at 84th. So there will be some definite improvements. There will be some additional right-of-way, and there will be 2 full through lanes on Federal Boulevard, both north and south, which is today, but that will continue. And there will be some right turn lanes and added along Federal at key locations. And the 84th, 88th, those existing right-of-ways, and Lowell adjacent to the property will be improved with curb and gutter, and in some cases will be a little wider or a little narrower because the road section that's required will be built to city standards for those roads. So it won't be drastic, changes, but they are designed to handle the projected residents and traffic for the larger Uplands development. Bradburn Drive currently will be reconstructed with this proposal, and it presently doesn't have sidewalks, so you see those sidewalks added and some green space on each side of the roadway. So you'll see curb and gutter there. And sometimes curb and gutter provides what I'll call better traffic flow, and sometimes it's just slower rather than faster. And with the construction of the adjacent homes, you'll see probably some slower traffic movements along Bradburn Drive, and probably along the other developments, just because there are residences that front on those or back up to those streets. It's kind of drivers seem to respect residential neighborhoods and drive slower. It's sort of part of that anecdotal information that we see around. So, but the traffic study does look at the projected number of units, sort of the traffic patterns, et cetera. And we use national standards for that. And sometimes they're adapted for local conditions. I think the traffic study has been reviewed by for federal by the Colorado Department of Transportation, and the traffic for the larger Uplands has been reviewed by our traffic engineer and other city staff, and it does meet our standards.
Thank you, Patrick. The next item in the question queue is a comment from JP. The map shows parcel B as one, not split in two. The next, did you want to address that at all?
Yeah, I can just say that the split is due to the existing right-of-way for Bradburn. So they're two separate parcels.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. The next comment is from JP. He writes, Marcus, that's not what we have been told by you in the past.
I think, David, that was just about that question about the different parcels there. So I think that's what we've always said. I do want to be sure, again, we think that they'll develop over the course of time in different phases. So John Palmer, I'm happy to talk with you in more detail about that, but that's certainly consistent with what we've always thought.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. Rhonda Campbell writes, what is the estimated completion date of construction for Parcel B?
Morris, do you want to give just a best guess on that? I know that's subject to a lot of things.
Sure. So I think the development part will take 8 to 12 months after we start moving dirt, after all the plans are approved and anything. Bonnie, what you mentioned, kind of early part of next year. And then the home building for the 80 odd homes will probably take 16 to 24 months. Somewhere around that time period. So probably in total up to 3 years beyond when all the entitlements are completed.
Thank you, Morris. The next question comes from JP. How much of the burden of the infrastructure upgrades will the city/taxpayers have to pay for?
Chad Ellington here, happy to take that one. We've been asked this several times. We've stated it quite a few times for John's benefit and others, but I'll reiterate that Uplands completely pays its own way. We're paying for all required infrastructure upgrades on-site, off-site, et cetera, and there are no infrastructure upgrades or any other infrastructure costs that are being passed on to existing taxpayers or existing residents to get this development started. So the answer is zero.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ellington. The next comment comes from Mr. Wyckoff, Eric Wyckoff. Why is KB Homes not wanting to abide by the City Code 11.6.8? Do they not care about the people who live here?
Morris, you can answer that if you'd like. I think generally speaking, we're taking the direction of Nicole and the city staff, or her comments earlier regarding the requested combination of parks, public land dedication in both cash in lieu and physical land as requested by the city. And we believe we are meeting the code, and the city believes we're meeting the code. So I don't think that's really a KB type issue. So I'll just answer it on behalf of the overall development. If you wanted to chime in anything else, great.
No, I really don't have anything to add to that. I agree.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ellington, Mr. Morris. The next comment comes from JP, or I suppose question. He says, so Bonnie is speaking the HOA now?
I think it's just acknowledging that Bonnie did answer that there will be an HOA on this site. We can speak because we're working with the developer on the proposal.
Okay, thank you. The next comment comes from JP. He would like us to add names with our answers. For example, when you speak, just say this is so-and-so. I think that's what he means.
Sure.
And we'll do JP, no problem. So again, this is Dave Gurman. Marcus, the next comment is Marcus, it's not what I was told by city staff, who was told building height is only 25 feet for this area.
Great, thanks, John Palmer. This is Marcus answering it as you called me out there. What I believe, John, to kind of look at, I know actually even the existing zoning is 35 feet for that site. And again, as Patrick kind of clarified, what we have put in the PDP is a request to go to 40 feet, but we believe that will be an average home height of 35 feet. So that's consistent, I believe, with the underlying R3 zone district. But John, I'm not questioning what you've been told or what you've understood there, but that's certainly the way we read the code, again, is that that is allowed today to 35 feet.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. The next,
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
Dave, and
yes.
Also, I know that, and this is Rita McConnell, we did provide an inventory of building heights in the area. There was kind of a defined area of interest, and it included 5 different zone districts. 2 of those had a 25-foot building height, and 3 of those had a 35-foot building height.
Okay, and that was Rita McConnell, our planning manager, and thank you, Rita. By the way, folks, Nicole was desperately trying to rejoin us. She's been having some difficulties, so when we were asking for her help, she apologizes that she couldn't get in, but she thinks that she's getting close to getting back in, so she's still working on it. Mr. Wyckoff writes, that's BS, Nicole. JP writes, 8+ feet on my property is not the right of way. So what are they doing in my yard on the west side of Lowell?
So I'm going to have Eric again come in and answer this question, but I do want to be very clear. When you see that cross section of Lowell, we're not changing that, John, and coming into your yard. It will keep the western edge of Lowell there, and we will expand that and change that into our site on the east side of the roadway. So I just want to be very clear that that's not showing that. But Eric, can you walk through that in a little more detail? There seems to be some confusion, on that northern part there along 84.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is make sure that we've got the adequate and the correct elevations shot and accurate. And again, sorry, this is Eric Pearson with Cage. And so what they're doing is getting the topo and getting all the curb lines, making sure that we're going to be able to tie in correctly when construction happens. So don't believe they're planning. We did not tell them to get out of the right of way. All we're trying to do is make sure that what we're going to be tying into is accurately depicted on what we have to work with.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Eric. The next item in the queue is a comment from Eric Wyckoff. He writes, too many exceptions on this, with many and exceptions in all caps. JP writes, Patrick, I'm only repeating the information provided by you last week, so why are you changing your answer? Okay, Patrick, did you want to respond or should I move on?
Well, I don't think I'm changing my answer. There are a lot of exceptions noted. I shouldn't say a lot, but there's a few exceptions noted. So I'm not exactly sure what his question is, but
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. JP then writes, how many spots, Bonnie? With question mark.
Yeah, Bonnie, how many spots specifically on that parking? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I did do some quick math. So we have 82 homes. Each home has a 2-car garage. So that's 164 garage spaces. 46 of those homes also have a 2-car driveway. So that's another 92 spaces. And then there's additional approximately, I believe it's 32 surface parking spaces. So that's 288 parking spaces for these 82 homes. And the number I don't have, John, and we'll make sure to do some math for you on this one too, is how many parking spaces are provided on the north-south local street. So at least 288, but we know there's some on that local street as well. This is Bonnie.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. The next comment or question comes from JP. He writes, that did not answer the water question.
Sorry, it's Marcus. I'm not sure which one that's referring back to, but we'll scroll back up. David, if you want to go on, we'll scroll back up and try to see if we can figure out what John means.
Okay. And just, I don't know if this helps. The only water question I can remember is how the irrigation was being done, but I could be missing one. The next comment comes from Rhonda Campbell. She writes, you mentioned that the homes will have hookups for electric cars in the garages. Will solar panels be included in the construction of the homes?
Morris, do you want to talk about if that's an option?
Yes, I can talk about it. No, it's not an option we offer at the moment. It's something that we've found is not really taken up by most people. So it's the solar panels are not an option at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Morris. JP writes, the homeowners don't currently have an issue, so how does that make it all better?
This is Marcus. I'll just say that's obviously in reference to John's comment earlier about that folks would have to get flood insurance because of this. The comment stands correct that from an engineering perspective, it's a better situation than it is today. So it is terrific news that the homeowners don't currently have an issue, and we're reinforcing that there won't be an issue whatsoever after that. And again, we work with the city and their engineers on all the standards. And so, John, that's a great thing, and we're going to be sure that that stays, that the current homeowners do not have an issue.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. The next comment comes from Jamie Chapa, who writes, who's paying for the new infrastructure for water retention ponds and existing sewer and new sewer systems?
So I think Chad answered that. This is Marcus again. Uplands is solely responsible for those costs. Chad, we're providing the infrastructure, doing all of that. So Rhonda, I think that goes through kind of all the things that you were asking there, but we are providing those connections.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. The next question comes from JP. Will all homes be owner occupied? for rental or Airbnb?
I'll just go rapid fire on these for a minute. This is Marcus. I think that these are obviously designed as for sale homes. I'm sure, Morris, that we will simply, allow that. What homeowners do after that, I don't know all the specifics of what the city allows, but these are being sold as single home for sale homes.
And this is Patrick Caldwell. The city doesn't allow Airbnb rentals in this zone district, and so you could probably rent or lease the home long-term, but no short-term rentals.
And I believe we can also add that they would be for one family only and not expanded into duplexes or something like that. The next comment comes from Naomi Decker, who writes, "These streets seem very narrow. Has the fire department authorized this plan?"
Again, this is Eric Pearson. So after submitting into the city, the fire department is a referral. We have followed all regulations required for the fire, and these alleys are very similar to what is seen up at 88th and Lowell as well.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. The next question comes from Jamie Chapa, who writes, "The housing market is slowing down. Why do you need to build more homes in this area? There are plenty of other areas to tear down old buildings and build new there."
So Bonnie, maybe if you want to address this, or Chad, or I'm happy to jump in.
I'll take it. We don't see any signs of slowdown in the housing market. In fact, the rapid price acceleration is due to a lack of supply in our market. You'll hear the stories of $50,000 to $100,000 over asking price for sales prices, cash offers, et cetera, and that's all due to a lack of supply in the market, generally speaking. And so I don't think we generally agree with that. Morris could add to that if you wanted to. The other part of it, of why we don't tear other stuff down and build houses there, we're following the city's comp plan, and this area is very, very, very much prescribed through the comp plan for residential development, has been for a long time. And so some of the other areas in town that might be closed, retail shops affected by COVID, shopping centers, et cetera, that are less utilized, most of the time have a different zoning. So as developers, we don't have that opportunity to tear down a different use and build homes. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you, Mr. Ellington. The next comment, I believe, is it's from JP, and I believe it's to clarify his previous question about all green. What he says is, "No, I am asking on construction materials used. Will they be green?"
Yeah, Morris, just maybe if you could talk a little bit. You said how all of these will be Energy Star. In building these homes, is Energy Star that also looks at the materials that are being used to construct the homes as well? Is that correct?
Sorry, yes, Marcus. So the answer to that is yes, but I think he may be referring to recycled material and the possibility of recycled material. And we don't typically go too much into recycled type material just because of the volumes of the material that are required. So I'm kind of guessing that that's what the question was about.
Okay, thank you, Morris. The next item in the queue is a comment from Naomi Decker. She writes, "KB Homes built Midtown." Anything to add there, folks? Okay. The next comment comes from Jamie Chapa. "Will you be adding in another traffic light in this area? More people, more traffic?" Again, I think we indicated no new traffic signals, but does anyone have any more to add to that? And also Patrick expounded on what was happening out at Federal.
Yeah, I would just add that it's not warranted from the process that the city requires with the traffic study. There is not, other than the 86th and federal signal that Patrick alluded to, there is not a warrant. In other words, there's not a required traffic signal addition to help mitigate anything that is caused by uplands. There are quite a few traffic improvements that go along with that, but a signal is not always the best answer, and we go through a detailed process with traffic experts and engineers in the city and CDOT and everybody to determine when an additional traffic signal is warranted. So in this case, it's not.
Okay, thank you. And that was Chad Ellington. The next comment is from JP, and he writes, Jeff, please clarify your public statement made is quoted in the Colorado Sun, referring to the farm, quote, a typical neighbor is living next to what is functionally now a prairie dog field or an unimproved, unplanted field, unquote. Your statement is so far from the truth. Please respond, Jeff.
Is there a way to make Jeff Hanlon a presenter or a panelist? A question for the city. He has sent me a note that said that he's happy to answer the question if the city can make him a panelist.
Chad, he's not connected to audio. Jeff, if you can hear me, I'm going to try to unmute you. Something tells me it's not going to work because the software says you're not connected to any audio, but I'm going to give it a try. So when I click on unmute, it keeps telling me not connected to audio.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Oh, Jeff, there you are. Yes, I just saw the green
is.
button. Come on, go ahead.
Okay, great. I just wanted to quickly address that specific question. And I'm glad it was asked. I'm glad that I'm being given an opportunity to answer it. I've had so many interviews over the last few years about this community that we're proposing. And so in this case, I made a very similar quote to that, or exactly that quote, but it was not about the folks next to this farm at all. It was pertaining to the folks that live, maybe they live right next to or near some of the 60 acres of undeveloped park in Westminster that requires cash in order to make it into parks, but yet that cash is not readily available in the current city's Parks Rec budget for capital expenditures. So I was referring to what I feed from your fellow citizens that said, we're frustrated that a park that was a public park we were promised 10 years ago is still not here. And so I was relating their experience, not anything to do with 84th and Federal or anywhere near the farm. We think that the farm has been very well maintained as a farm, and so opportunity to respond.
Thank you, Jeff. And just for the record, can you also give us your last name?
Yes, I'm Jeff Hanlon, and I'm a partner along with Chad Ellington in the Uplands.
Okay, we got notes of that. We're having some sound issues there. Anything else to add, Marcus, Bonnie, or Patrick? Anyone? Okay, and thank you, sir, for jumping in. A comment from Eric Wyckoff. John Voles, he's a council member, said he would not agree with taking cash in lieu for this development. Has this changed?
I don't know that we're familiar with that comment, but the comment is noted.
This is Rita McConnell. I am not aware of any council comments on a quasi-judicial application. The comments from council would appear at a public hearing on this matter.
Thank you, Rita. The next is a question from JP. Please tell us how many cars travel on Lowell daily. And before we jump into that one, I'll read you his next two, which are the same question for different streets, on 84th daily and on 88th daily. So again, Lowell, 84th and 88th, he's looking for how many cars travel daily.
Yeah, and to adequately address that question, we will follow up with the actual trip counts that we have for the report. I don't have that readily available right now, but we will address those.
Okay, thank you. And was that Mr. Pearson?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right. The next question from JP. The state now open without any conditions. Why can't we meet in person? Your answer is poor at best.
This is Rita McConnell again. I think I've addressed meeting in person. It is city protocol at this time, and the preference is for virtual meetings for neighborhood meeting and planning commission until otherwise modified.
Thank you, Rita. The next, I don't see a question mark. I'm going to call this a comment from Karen Ray. Follow-up to question on PLD and the city reply of a holistic view of parks in the city. If you look that approach, oh, I'm sorry, I misread that. If you took that approach, then a fair assessment of deficient park areas in the South Westminster would be at the top of the list. This land offers an opportunity for the city residents to preserve a special piece of land for the health and well-being of residents now and in the future. I believe the city is misserving the residents if it supports this approach by giving this incentive to the developer. Nicole, I don't know if you've been able to successfully rejoin us. Did you have anything you wanted to add on that? Or Patrick?
My connectivity has been problematic, and I've also been having trouble with my mouse. But can you guys see and hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So I would say that I appreciate that comment, and we will definitely note that in the staff comments as this development comes back in for continued reviews.
Okay. Thank you, Nicole. That was Nicole Ankeny, Senior Landscape Architect for Parks Recreation Library. The next comment, I believe, is a clarification from JP. He says, cash question is for the city.
Okay, this is Nicole Ankeny again. I'm assuming the question is related to the public land dedication. I apologize, I was not able to get on to answer the question earlier. I was rushing around the house trying to figure out how to make this connection better, find some additional ports that may assist in that. Patrick was right in that when the city accepts cash in lieu, that goes, the city manager's office has the budget and policy office, and they help us to track all of the funds that come in through cash in lieu so that they can be appropriate transferred to parks, open space, projects, as well as acquisition. That money is tracked, but it does go back into parks, open space projects.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, folks, we have a handful of questions left. This one, and comments. This one comes from Naomi Decker. KB Homes has built homes in Midtown in Adams County. They were the houses that were built too close together.
Again, we'll work with the city. This is Marcus on their requirements on setbacks and separation. So we're happy, Naomi, to share some other examples of that, but we'll certainly work with the city on that separation.
And Mr. Barbera, I see you turned your camera on. Did you have more to add?
No. The only thing I was going to say is that it's possible. It was certainly before my time, so it was more than 10 years old. I don't know the project, the Midtown project specifically, but I'm not denying that KB built homes in Midtown.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Eric Wyckoff writes, the city should not take cash in lieu, and audit should be done to find out where all the money for park space has gone.
Hi, this is Nicole Ankeny again. I appreciate that comment and have noted that and pass that on to city leadership.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. The next question comes from, and please forgive me if I mispronounce this, John Rinkenberger. He asks, does the city recognize the overall impact of each development within the city, or is it a tactic of the developer to break out overall plan development built into small plans out to gain city approval?
I'll defer, obviously, to the city on kind of the first part of that question about does the city look at the overall impact. The other thing I'll just address, though, the tactic of a developer. Again, it's actually, we think, much more responsive as the phasing of the development to talk about that as we go through the process. Again, we want to give as much detail. Frankly, this is an ODP, so it really has a lot of detail starting to show that, some of the conceptual architecture. So it's not breaking them into small plans. I'll also say that as people know about this parcel, the overall Uplands parcel, it is, our site is divided into 5 parcels. It has different underlying zoning, different requirements. And so we're really following the guidance that we have in the comp plan and the PDPs. So John, I want you to know this is something that we think is actually much more responsive to the neighbors to actually bring site by site so we can talk about them in more of its entirety.
Thank you, Marcus. Does anyone have anything else to add, Patrick or Rita?
This is Patrick Caldwell. I don't have anything more to add. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. The next, go ahead, Rita. I'm sorry. Forgive me.
I don't either, Dave. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. The next question comes from Dino Valente. A question for Don Tripp, he writes. Failing technology for council meetings and neighborhood meetings seems to be the norm. Has the city considered investing in technology that works? Makes meeting attendance very frustrating as the in/out, on/off tech failures persist. And Mr. Valente, I believe we share your frustrations. We certainly don't want those to happen. But we will certainly pass your comments along. The next comment comes from JP. Will any of the homes be ADA accessible?
Yes, and it is an option. ADA accessibility options are available, and we have worked with people in these communities to provide that as needed.
Okay, thank you. And that was Morris Barbera.
Yes.
JP writes, open my microphone. I'm not sure I know what that is. I'm sorry. The next thing he writes is, Patrick, your answer on Airbnb is not what I was told by Eric Otzelberger from the city last week. He told me the city does not have any rules or regulations in place at this time. So can you clarify your answer?
This is Rita McConnell. I will interject at this point. The way our city code operates is if a use is not identified in the code, it's simply not allowed. And that use is not identified in the code.
Okay, thank you, Rita. That was Rita McConnell, our planning manager. Next comes from JP. He, I believe, is clarifying his green question. He says, I'm referring to building materials, not recycled, but green lumber and materials.
This is Marcus. I think we understand your comment, John Palmer. We've covered this one a few times. That is part of the way that you look at Energy Star building is the materials that are utilized. So we are right. We're not going to be using recycled. We are going to be using green products as well. So thank you for that, and we concur.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. The next comment is a comment. Ian Khan writes, I'm sorry with that name. Ian Khan writes, thanks to the developer representatives and city staff for presenting the plans and taking our questions.
Thank you.
And I will echo that. Thank you on behalf of the city as well. We're happy to be here, truly, and we really appreciate all of you who have taken the time to participate. The next question comes from John Rinkenberger, who writes, how many city staff associated with this development live within a mile of this development, if any? How many would be in favor of this development?
I'll answer that. This is Patrick Caldwell. The city typically doesn't keep track of the number of city employees that live near proposed developments. Thanks.
Thank you, Patrick.
And
Go
Dave,
ahead.
this is John McConnell again, and I can add to that. As public servants, we have to hold ourselves to a high ethical standard, and we will review this application and any other application against our codes and ordinances and plans and standards and everything that's applicable. And we are unbiased when we do that. And so our personal opinion on any development application is not a factor in any decision that we make.
Thank you. And that was John McConnell, our principal planner. And then this is the last question currently in our queue from Mr. Dino Valente. He writes, thank you. Mr. Tripp won't respond. He never does. No need to put this comment into the stream. And that is the entirety of the queue this evening. And I stand ready to assist so however you need.
Hi, and this is Patrick Caldwell, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for attending tonight. It looks like it's about 6 minutes after 8, and we had set the time till around 8 o'clock. It looks like we've concluded with the list of questions, and thanks again. And again, this will be available on the city's website. And I think we're going to pull that up here on the screen in just a minute.
Oh, we were trying to.
So again, thank you very much for attending. Public hearings for this have not yet been scheduled, and appreciate everyone's attendance here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will, this is Dave Gurman, senior planner who works with Patrick. I will be putting the contact information on the screen just in a few moments. And we'll leave it up there for a moment or two so everyone can, who wishes to, can copy it down. I do like the dog pictures playing catch on the city hall lawn. That's cute. You don't want to overclick because that's what killed it last time. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. And again, thank you on behalf of city staff and our applicant team this evening. We do appreciate everyone's attendance. It can't be public participation without the public. So thank you for coming, everyone.